Today I get to cash in my I told you so points on my original Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled review, because when I took a look at that pit stop, I knew that Activision couldn't resist monetizing the hell out of this game, because now Wampa coins can be bought with real money on the PlayStation 4 and you can use them to get cosmetic items. And I'm not sure how I feel about this. I'm actually in two very different minds. On the one hand, I understand that if they are going to continue to support the game to create new skins, new animations, and most importantly new tracks, they can't do that for free. It's just not practical. They need a way to subsidize their development. The way they're going to do that is through microtransactions for cosmetics. They're not doing it with pay to win at the moment, but that's the method they've chosen, and it's not going to break the game for everyone who plays it at the moment. It will just be an unfortunate addition. So I can understand it, and I saw it coming, and I almost accept it as an inevitable evil now of so many games. There are so many games that do this method, so it's becoming a bit of a standard almost, and to be annoyed at it feels a bit like being annoyed at the rain. It's just an inevitable component of gaming. However, there is something to this which I really don't like, and I hate the fact it's becoming a trend now with Activision, and that is allowing the game to release without these microtransactions and not mentioning that they will be in the game. So this means the reviews come out, they're very positive, the fan base are very much on board and say it's a great remake of a PlayStation 1 and to some extent a PlayStation 2 game, but then they wait until the general publicity around the game has died out. They wait for people to get hooked on the game and to enjoy it and to rave about the game, as I have done on my own channel. And then they announce they're going to bring in microtransactions, and then they implement them. And people aren't very happy about this. And although I must reiterate, I understand that this is necessary if we want to have free updates and new characters being added. That is an inevitability of it. Which is why I don't want to create a petition for them to remove them, because I know that if you want them to remove these microtransactions, by extension, you also want them to not support the game anymore, because they wouldn't do it for free. That I can understand. But what I really don't want to see more of is this deception, this way of getting around the public knowing that they're going to add them until they've bought the game and then dropping them in. I really detest that idea. And it's not the first time we've seen it from Activision. The other big example of this is something like Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Something I've mentioned recently, but I'm going to say it again just because I don't think it gets enough attention, is that the game came out, got pretty good reviews because it was a well-made Call of Duty, and then they wait for the overall impressions to finish, they wait for it to get through its life cycle, they put microtransactions in, and then many months into the game, they release guns that are blatantly more powerful than the ones you are able to get without the supply drops. And I was extremely upset by that, because I was enjoying the game, but now I just don't play it. And that's the thing. At the moment, it's just cosmetics, right? That's all we have in Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled. But what if now Activision decide that maybe, let's say 6 months in the future, popularity in the game is starting to wane. People aren't really paying attention to it, but they want to make a bit more money out of the game. What if they decide to add in a character with statistics that are higher than all other characters, meaning that that racer now has an advantage over all other racers in the game, and by extension you create a game that is to some extent pay to win. Now that's a bit of a theory, but if we look at the evidence here, we look at another Activision game, they've done that with Black Ops 4, and we know that they are willing to, shall we say, change the rules of engagement when it comes to monetization post-launch. They have no qualms about doing that if they think it's necessary to get more out of the game in terms of their revenue. And that is what I don't like, because it creates this sense of paranoia. And I'll tell you why I really don't like this, is because I am quite looking forward to the next Modern Warfare. However, that is another Activision game, being published by Activision, I should say. And all the press around the game is really promising. And I want to be really excited. But at the back of my head, I'm like, look at Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, look at Black Ops 4, Look at what Activision are willing to do. So even if the game comes out and it's amazing, who's to say they won't ruin it in the way that they're ruining these other games? I don't want to say they are ruining Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled at the moment. At the moment, I think it's in an okay place, but it's just this precedent they're setting that is extremely unhealthy. And what I'm worried is that other publishers will see this move, which is remarkably devious, and think, yeah, this is the way you do it. You sidestep that bad press and loss of pre-orders by not mentioning it at all. You wait for a month to pass so people have the game and they're playing it, and then you put them in. And it's going to become the industry standard because it's such a good tactic. Not good for the consumer, but it's good for the publisher. I'm always interested in these scenarios. How do the developers feel about this? Because I suppose my romanticized view of the developers is that they have the passion for what they're creating. They just want to make something good. And they must not like the reputation of these games that they've worked so hard on being tarnished by such predatory practices. And that's another thing, right? If you look at the pit stop, it's not just the fact that you can now use real money to get various cosmetic items. It's how they do it as well. Like there's a timer that goes down, and say there's an item in there that's something you quite want, and you are willing to work for it, but it says there's only 2 hours left. There isn't enough time in the day for you to earn that through other means, so you have to spend money, so they get you on that. And so really, to anyone who agrees with me, this is what I'll say, because this is what I do. This is just my approach to all this. I am not someone who boycotts games that include microtransactions, because if I did that, I wouldn't be playing many games because they're everywhere now. However, I do make a point of never, ever getting a microtransaction in these games, no matter what. No matter if it means that there's no other way of me getting whatever I might want, I just don't do it, out of principle more than anything. And I would, if you feel similarly, recommending the same, because I don't need to repeat it. It's been said many times by many people, but the reason these things exist is because people are willing to pay for them. I don't know who these people are. I don't meet people who would do this, but they do exist. And they don't even have to be the majority of people. They can just be the minority willing to spend a lot of money, which is why this practice is so successful. But this is one of those things, because I feel like the reason this has happened, in part at least, is because season passes kind of preceded this as the go-to way of supporting content post-release. And season passes got a lot of hate. I remember the original 2015 Star Wars Battlefront getting a lot of flack for that. But then, because we rejected that, we now have a greater evil. And that's the thing, right? It's a good idea to complain. It's better to complain than to be complacent. But you've got to be careful. When you've got things okay, when things are maybe not as best as they can be, but they're okay, be careful about denouncing them, because otherwise what can take its place is something much worse. And if I do a little bit of introspection on that, okay, I'm here, I'm complaining about microtransactions. What could be the result of that? Well, what if studios just think, okay, fine then, we're not going to support games, so we get a game, we deliver it, and we don't support it afterwards. We just give you the product. Maybe we introduce some bug fixes, but we don't add extra content. I don't necessarily know that that's a better world. I think it's quite nice to have games that evolve over time. So even there, we have to look at both sides. But it would be interesting to hear what other people think about this. I know it's certainly not a popular thing. So, as always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.